Hey there, Financial Zen Masters. It's Rick. Today, I'm going to show you how to tell if you are invested correctly. Let me start with a story. Every year growing up, the carnival would come into town, and they would set up in the Kmart parking lot. It's one of the highlights of my childhood. We went every year. I loved it every time. One year, when I was like 5 or 6, my parents went out of town, and so I was staying with my grandparents. That was also the weekend that the carnival was in town. Now, not wanting to disappoint me, Pappy agreed to take me to the carnival. And so my grandfather and I went to the carnival and just had like the best time. Like I remember that day so vividly. One of the fondest memories I have with my grandfather. I remember the taste of the cotton candy and the smell of the candied apples and all the sounds of all the rides and all the games going on all around you. We rode everything like once or twice, except for this one ride. So the sun was setting. It was dusk, right? The color of the sky was that magical sort of dusk color. All the lights on the carnival rides had come on, right? And the place was just lit up. It was just like that time. And I looked at the double Ferris wheel, which was the only ride we hadn't ridden the entire day, and said, "Pappy, can we go on that before we leave?" Now, in case you haven't seen one of these things, let me show you what I'm talking about. This is the machine we got on. This is the ride we got on. So the way it works is this big arm kind of swings around, and then while that big arm swinging around, these little guys swing around, right? I'm pretty sure you will only find this ride in carnivals. Anyways, not wanting to disappoint his grandson, Pappy agreed and said, "Sure, let's go. Let's go on the double Ferris wheel." So we get on. Somehow I made the height requirement. I'm not even sure they had a height requirement. It was a parking lot carnival for crying out loud, you know. But anyways, we got on the ride. We got strapped in. We're ratcheting up towards the top, right, as they're loading more and more people, and then at the bottom. Finally, we get to the top, and this thing's probably about 10 stories tall. And I'm looking around, wondering what I had been at, what I had asked to do, right? So I'm starting to freak out a little bit, but we're committed. We're strapped in. Okay, it's gonna be okay. So the ride starts. They get the last person in, the ride starts. So we go around once, go around twice. By the third time, we're at full speed. And this thing is fast. And I am freaking out in like the worst way possible. I start screaming my head off, screaming bloody murder as only a 5-year-old can. "Stop the ride! Stop the ride! Why did we get on this? I can't take it. Please stop the ride!" And I'm freaking out. So Pappy's freaking out. Every time we near the bottom of the operator, get near the operator, he's like, "Stop the ride! Stop the ride! Stop the ride!" Right? So I don't remember if we wrote it out or if it just finally ended. But needless to say, thank God I was strapped in, because if they didn't strap me in, I guarantee I would have jumped out mid ride. Guaranteed. And then I actually would have gotten hurt, right? That was a memory I will never forget. Now, what does that have to do with investing? Well, thankfully, I was strapped in, right? When you invest, you're not strapped in. And where people get into trouble is they get on a ride that is beyond their comfort zone, just like 5-year-old Ricky did. And because they're not strapped in, when the ride gets scary, they jump out mid ride. And that's how they end up getting hurt, right? Now, specifically, what we're talking about is you're investing in this well diversified, portfolio, right? The market tanks, it brings down everything, including your portfolio, even though it's well diversified. And it gets to a point where you are no longer thinking rationally. Your instincts kick in, your fight or flight instincts kick in, right? And because you're not strapped into the ride, you jump out halfway on the way down, right? And that's how you end up getting hurt. The way you end up not getting hurt is staying strapped in, pretending like you're strapped in, and just waiting for the ride to end, right? In market terms, the market always bounces back. It will never go to zero, right? It always bounces back at some point if you do it correctly. So you just got to ride it out, right? And where people get in trouble is they get on a ride that is inappropriate for their comfort level. Okay. So the question is, how do we determine what the appropriate ride is for you, right? At Financial Zen, we have this tricky little software that quantifies all these sort of very conceptual, kind of fuzzy sort of things down to what we call a risk number, right? Based on that risk number, that is how all your long-term money should be invested, right? That's your anchor, that's your North Star. That is the ride that's appropriate for you, for your comfort level, right? The ride where you're not going to jump out mid-ride, okay? Now, let me show you what the software looks like. If you are a Financial Zen member, then and you're watching this, that means it's probably between you probably just completed your first appointment in your foundations program, in which case, congratulations. You took a huge first step. First step, journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step, and you took a massive first step, completing your first appointment. Looking forward to spending the following appointments with you, the following months with you. And we're going to have a great time. Anyways, so if you're a Financial Zen member and you're going through our foundations program, we will have sent this to you. So a lot of this information will already be filled in. As I said at the end of that last appointment, the reason why we do it midway here, even though we actually dig into your investments in month 4 of the program, the reason we need it here is because your next appointment is going to be reviewing your financial projections to determine if you're on a good path or not. Your financial projections are determined by how we invest your money, right? So this will determine how we invest your money. How we invest your money determines your rate of return. Your rate of return on your long-term investments determines, builds into your financial projections and tells us if you're on a good path or not, right? So that's why we do it here, even though we dig much deeper into it in month 4. Okay, if you're not a Financial Zen member, first off, why not? But in all seriousness, you can take the risk assessment. Just click the link below, and you will get to a screen that looks like this. In which case you'll need to fill it out because obviously we don't know who you are. So you have to fill it all in for you. I pre-populated this. Let's say John Smith is taking his risk assessment. So he just fills in his info. What are your financial goals? You know, maybe John's wants to retire, probably like all of us do someday. He wants to save for college because his kids are younger. And maybe he's even got some old student loans he wants to pay down. So John selects those 3. Then he gives us a little more detail, changing jobs, about to have our second kid. That's good details. Now, if you're a Financial Zen member, you can skip these first 2 questions because we just had a 90-minute conversation about you, right? So we dove much deeper than these questions get into. So we already know that stuff. No need to fill that in. Again, if you're a Financial Zen member, we will have done this calculation for you and filled in how much is in your long-term bucket. If you're not, then you'll have to do the calculation yourself. For everyone, whether you're a member or a non-member, this is only for your long-term money, okay? Only your long-term money should be invested in the market, okay? And long-term is 10 years. Over 10 years, invested in the market. Under 10 years, you're going to invest it differently if you are invested in the market. And it's possible that you shouldn't even be invested at all, depending on what your goals are and how soon they are, right? So this is only for money that you won't touch for 10 years, so you can ride out all the ups and downs in the markets, okay? So things like 401k, IRA, your college savings if your kids are younger, any long-term savings, all right? So let's say John has 300 grand in long-term savings saved up. And John is my age. He's a young, spry 43. All right, and then we get to the first part. Okay, so let's read through this one time together, and then I will explain, and then I'll give you some tips on how to be thinking about this as you take it. So how much risk can you handle in 6 months? Over the next 6 months, you're comfortable risking this. John, in John's case, if he's down 14%, that means he's showing a paper loss of $42,000, okay? To have a chance at this gain, or if John's comfortable at this risk level, he could be up 14% and be up $42,000, okay? Move the slider to your comfort zone to continue. Then you grab the slider, and these numbers will change depending on where you fall. Now, here's one edit that I wish I could make to this software, which is I don't want you to focus at all on the gains. Nobody's ever gotten hurt making money. Nobody's jumped out of the ride mid-ride when they're having an amazing time, right? So we don't care about the upside, right? We want our focus to be on the downside, right? So we want to envision ourselves 6 months from now opening up your Financial Zen performance report or logging into your Financial Zen portal and seeing that your accounts are down 12%, okay? And the trick is to find the point, your sort of freak out point, the point where you want to jump out of the ride, right? where you just won't be able to take it and you'll force us to do something that is to your detriment, right? So let's say in John's case, maybe he's more conservative. Maybe he can only handle being down 4%. A $12,000 paper loss is as much as he can handle. Beyond that, he's going to jump out of the ride. Or maybe John's more aggressive and he's like, you know what? I know how this stuff works. I'm cool. Paper loss of being down 20%, being out 50 grand. I'm not even gonna bat an eyelash. I'm cool with that. So for our sample purposes, let's just say he places himself somewhere in the middle. 12% down is where his initial comfort zone is. And then I'll ask you to just iterate it 3 more times. Okay. So what if you can improve that? So here's what John just chose, right? Up or down 12%. What if you can improve that by taking less risk for the same reward? To basically bring your downside from 12% down to 7, but still keep all the potential money you could make. Or maybe you want to or maybe you want to keep the risk. Maybe John thinks to himself, you know what, I'm pretty cool with being down 12%. I don't think that bothered me. So I'll take a little more upside, if that's the option. Okay, so John selects that one. And I'll just ask that 2 more times. That's what he just chose. And then it says, are you sure? What if you could take just a little bit more risk? Are you going to flip out if you're down 14%? Like for if you're not going to freak out at being down 34%, you'd be down 34 grand. Are you going to freak out being down 42 grand, 43 grand? Let's say he says, nah, that's probably 12% as far as I want to go. I think I might do something drastic if I'm down 14%. And it says, okay, well, what if we were just down 13%? Sort of negotiates with him, right? And John says, yeah, you know what? That's only a difference of $3,000. I'm not gonna lose sleep over a $3,000 paper loss if it's that much worse. So I'll pick that one. And then it will come up with John's risk number, which in his case is a 61. Okay. So what is the significance of the risk number? Basically, it's really simple. The higher the number, the more aggressive the portfolio, which means the scarier the ride's going to be. Okay. The lower the risk number, okay, the smaller the return, and the safer, not the safer, the more mundane the ride's going to be, right? So conservative portfolio is like jumping on the merry-go-round, right? An aggressive portfolio is like getting on the double Ferris wheel, right? And there's all the rides in between. Okay. Now, if you're a financial Zen member, this is how we will use this, right? This is our center for how we invest your money across all your long-term investments. Okay. So the Financial Zen group, so we run 5 different portfolio models that correspond with a risk number. Okay. So we have a conservative model that is a risk number of a 40. We got a moderately conservative model with a risk number of a 50. We got a 60 risk model, which is our moderate portfolio. We got a moderately aggressive portfolio, which is a 70. And then we got an aggressive portfolio, which is an 80, right? So depending on where your risk assessment is, that's the model that we would use, right? That's the allocation that we'd use. So in John's case, we would recommend to put him in our 60, in our moderate portfolio model, which scores a 60. Okay. Now, there's no right or wrong on this. At this stage, whatever you're comfortable with, whatever you will see through, right, and not jump out mid-ride is the right portfolio, right? There's no right or wrong. There's like, what's your favorite color, right? There's no right or wrong answer to that question. Okay. One more thing for our Financial Zen members. Once we get into month 4, one of the things that we'll prepare for that meeting is we're going to plug in all of your current investments, okay, so that we can get a risk number for your current investments compared to what your risk number is here. And then we'll discuss how to get it if it's not in line, how to sort of right size it and get it into here. And then for our non-financial Zen members, one of the things that we'll offer you is if you want to take us up on we'll reach out to you once you complete this risk assessment, just give you a jingle and say, hey, if you want to talk, here we are. And if you do want to talk, then one of the things we'll do is a free portfolio analysis. We can work with you to plug in your current investments to come up with your own current risk number so that you can make that comparison as well. The difference is obviously as a non-member, we're not going to help you actually fix it, right? We're just going to give you the comparison. So that's something we'd be happy to help you with, something that we can do on your discovery call if that interests you. All right, so that's all I got for you. Hopefully you learned something. If you did learn something, hit subscribe, click the like button, right? That's what all the YouTubers say. And thanks for watching. And again, the most important thing as an investor, the way you determine if you're invested correctly is if the portfolio you're in is within your comfort zone, right? and you would be able to ride it out when the stuff hits the fan, because it always will. The nice part is when it hits the fan, it always bounces back eventually. You just got to be able to ride out the ride, right? Don't be the 5-year-old that gets on the double Ferris wheel. All right, guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.